Good evening, ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties. This is Alex, coming at you from the underworld, and welcome back to another episode of This weekend, I'm reviewing Field of Fiends by Nicholas Gray, which, by the way, this was recently republished in his collection called Gray's Anatomy. And truth be it, I had this a little further down on my TBR, but I had just finished reading 3 massive books that were very heavy, and I needed something to balance everything out. So since I had read Gray before, I decided now would be the perfect time to dive into this novella. Also, if you're unfamiliar with Nicholas Gray, he is a horror author, a booktuber, and a co-producer with Candice Nola for the publishing house called Splatter Inc. Press. So if you would like to learn more about him, I've included his information in the description section of this episode. But with that said, let's go on and get down to business and play flashlight tag in Benton's Field where horror awaits. Field of Fiends by Nicholas Gray introduces a 14-year-old protagonist named Ryan who has been institutionalized due to a traumatic event that he survived. After we gain this information, we discover that he and his adopted little brother Mikey have been inseparable since the day Mikey came to live with Ryan's family. Eventually, one night, Ryan goes to Mikey and wakes him up so they can play flashlight tag with their circle of friends in Benton's Field. However, Mikey is a little apprehensive because he's been having frequent nightmares about something in the sky. Nonetheless, they go to the field, and shortly after their game begins, they encounter bloodthirsty creatures from another planet. In this episode, I've decided to do something new. So instead of me doing a voiceover while still images play, here's the one and only Nicholas Gray answering some interview questions that I prepared for him.
Hello, people of Alex's channel, or should I say Bookworm of the Damned. I am Nicholas Gray, author of Gray Matter, a short story collection that has recently been revised. Well, not recently, it's been a few years, but then I have The Chilean Centipede, which is a novelette, but it's very long novelette, if that means anything to you. And then I also have a short story collection that just came out. I don't have it on me, but it's called Gray's Anatomy. And that one has the featured story, Field of Fiends, inside it. So go purchase Gray's Anatomy, and I hope you dig it. So I'm here to answer some questions that Alex has given me. So here we go. What inspired Field of Fiends? Well, a few things inspired Field of Fiends. Well, my love of coming-of-age stories started way back when I read Carrie, you know. Ever since then, I've just adored coming-of-age stories, and I've always wanted to write some of my own. And one of the coming-of-age story ideas that I had was to create one involving aliens, which might be a little bit of a spoiler, but okay. But Field of Fiends is what came out of that idea. So what inspired Field of Fiends? Well, a lot of things, but my love for coming-of-age stories and my fear of aliens. So there you go. What was your goal in writing this? Well, my goal was to write a coming-of-age themed alien story, or coming-of-age alien-themed story. I really wanted to write a story that involved aliens and in a coming-of-age theme, you know? Like, I really love coming-of-age stories, but I feel like there's not, like, coming-of-age stories involving aliens. So, yeah. There you go. Also, before I answer number 3, I apologize if you can hear my laptop buzzing. I can't do anything about it, so I apologize. Alright, number 3. How did you create the alien design? And do you believe in aliens? Well, The alien design came from my mind, but I had an artist make it. So, what you see on the cover of Field of Fiends, the novelette version on Amazon, buy it today. Um, that alien was mostly done by the artist, but I wanted 4 arms, black eyes, sharp teeth, big body, I had all the details, but the guy's name is I'm gonna mess up his name. I better not try to say his name because I'm gonna mess it up. But yeah, he's a really great Fiverr artist. I don't even know if he's still on Fiverr or not. I think his name was Ozark. I think I could be wrong though. I'm pretty sure it has the name inside the book, so go check that out. Second part of this question is, do I believe in aliens? So, this is kind of a complicated answer, so I'm going to kind of keep it short. Yes and no. Yes, I believe in aliens, probably exist somewhere out there in the universe or in space. I believe that we can't be the only life forms in this great span of stars, I think somewhere out there, there's another civilization wondering the same question we are. Is there something out there, Do I believe aliens are coming and abducting cows and stuff like that? Not really. But the idea scares me, It's the idea that scares me, but I don't really believe that they are coming and abducting people. But I have had a history of blacking out in the middle of the night and losing time, which I always contributed to maybe being abducted as a kid. But now that I've grown up, I think that idea is a little silly. But that was a real fear of mine back in the day. So I used to be terrified of aliens. So yeah. Okay, so number 4. Most of your work is short fiction. What do you feel are the benefits of producing short fiction? So what are the benefits of producing short fiction? Well, some authors are known for their short fiction, like Clive Barker, for instance. He's got the Books of Blood. Stephen King has a short story collection. One of his best short stories, or stories in general, is The Jaunt. I love that short story. Children of the Corn was a short story. Well, maybe a novelette. I don't really know. He doesn't really, his short stories are really long, is what I'm trying to say. But, all these authors have written really great short stories, and they've been making money off of it, What are the benefits of short fiction? Well, if you mean that in a real, very, literal sense, I would say the benefits of a short story over a novel or a tome or even a novella would be that it's short and it packs a punch, and it gets to the point really quickly. It's great. Short stories are great for people with really short attention spans, or they just don't have the time to knock out a novel, So, I feel like short fiction is really good for people who don't have the time or the attention span for longer stuff. And if you want short stories, like I said, Stephen King and Clive Barker are some of the best to do it, Ronald Kelly. Oh my gosh, how did I forget about Ronald Kelly? Ronald Kelly has a bunch of short story collections. He has Halloween Store and Other Halloweves Tales or whatever, or Tales of Halloweves or whatever. Then you have Mr. Glowbones and Other Halloween Tales. You have his Christmas shorts. I'm just going to start naming them. His Christmas short story collection, his St. Patrick's short story collection. He's got the Essential Six stuff, which basically is like 3 books in one. So, he's got a great scale of, or a good repertoire of short stories collections. I'm making myself look like an idiot right now, but using all these words that I don't know. Anyways, yeah, that's what I think the benefits of short stories are. But when it comes to producing them, I feel like they don't do that well in sales. I've noticed that my novelettes that stand alone, like Field of Fiends, do better than my short story collections. Like The Thing in the Ward did better than Gray Matter, and The Thing in the Ward is in Gray Matter. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not sure if people really enjoy short story collections as much as I wish they did. But, I mean, there are some authors who have become famous off their short stories, just like Clive Barker. And by the way, Clive Barker, shout out to Clive Barker, he's amazing. If you've never read his books of blood, Pig Blood Blues, man, that is a good story. And, I mean, the first books of blood is just solid, you know. I haven't read past the books of blood, the first books of blood, but I really need to. There's like stories that I haven't read yet, like Rawhead Rex or whatever it's called. I recently re-listened to the last story in the books of blood, and I actually enjoyed it. In my review, I said that it was not my favorite. I didn't finish it, but then I went back and then I learned that it was really good. So, you know, I ate my words. I'm trying to remember what big story. The Midnight Meat Train's in there. That's a great one. I mean, there's so many great short stories in that Books of Blood. Books of Blood, I mean, there's one. Gosh, I'm forgetting a big one, and I know it, but whatever, you know. I'm sure there's a big one that I'm forgetting, but it's gonna eat me alive in the inside, trust me. So I'll suffer, but whatever. But anyways, let's move on to the next question. What authors have inspired you the most? So what authors have inspired me the most, eh? So anyone who knows me knows I'm going to say Ronald Kelly. Ronald Kelly is one of my biggest inspirations ever. You know, he's not the first inspiration, but he's the biggest. I would say Ronald Kelly and his book Fear is one of those books that really made me want to write a coming of age story. There was other stories that preceded Fear, but I really think that Fear is the main reason why I wanted to write coming of age stories. And I think if there was no Ronald Kelly, there probably would be no Field of Fiends. So Ronald Kelly is a big inspiration of mine when it comes to authors. Stephen King, obviously, and Clive Barker. I've already mentioned them, and everyone probably mentions Stephen King when they talk about authors that have inspired them. But it's hard to not include the King, you know? I mean, Pet Sematary, It. Well, I didn't like It, but, you know, I like the movies, you know, so those kind of were produced, or not produced, but they're created because of the movies, I mean, or the books. I can't talk today. But yeah, Stephen King has written so many good books. Carrie's like one of my favorite books of all time, and I would probably, well, maybe not all time, you know, it's one of my favorite books, and it's in the top 10 for sure, I think. But yeah, there's so many good coming of age stories out there. I mean, I got a whole 20 number list, like a number like out of 20 stories. Like I go from number 20 all the way to number 1. I have a list. So I just love coming of age stories, you know. Any author that writes a coming of age story is immediately going on my TBR, you know. I have a whole box which I need to put in my bookcase I just put in my room. And the whole box, it consists of just coming of age stories. And I did not know that many coming of age stories existed. I really had to search for some of those too. So, but yeah, I really like coming of age stories. So any author that writes them is my favorite. John Wayne Caminelli is another author that has inspired me big time. John Wayne is just an awesome dude. If you have not read him yet, I'd highly recommend Scummer. It's not really a horror book, but still, it's got some gross scenes, and I really liked it a lot. And actually, I found a message in that story that I didn't think, or I didn't expect to find. So, definitely read Scummer, and Death Packs and Left Hand Paths. That's a good one, too. So, yeah. And I can't think of any more authors that have inspired me. Just those 4, I guess. But if I was going to throw a 5th one in there, Jeff Strand. I love Dweller. I love Autumn Bleeds into Winter, and I liked Ferocious. You know, Jeff Strand's quickly going up the leaderboard, so yeah, I'm gonna say Jeff Strand. And with that, we're done. So, again, my name is Nicholas Gray. I am an author of such things as Gray Matter, a short story collection. I'm an author of The Chwayan Centipede, or The Chwayan Centipede. I always say it wrong. I wrote the freaking book and I can't say the name right. The newest book, Grey's Anatomy. And I am working on tons of stories at the moment. It would do no justice if I left one out, but I will give you 3 that I'm currently working on. I have one called The Torn, which is basically, you know, about a guy who has these tics that he can't get under control, and he goes to a neurologist to see if he can fix it. And basically, long story short, he gets an implant in his brain and it changes his life forever. That's the short synopsis right there. Then I'm working on the Attack of the Dog Man. Attack of the Dog Man is my favorite urban legend, and I just had to write a story about it. Attack of the Dog Man is very early work at the moment, so I don't think it's gonna be ready for another year or two. You know, it depends on how much work I put into it. Then we have Symbiotic, which is finished. Well, the rough draft is finished, and I just need to go through it, read it, rewrite it, and then give it to my editor. But Symbiotic is basically about these kids that basically get an alien symbiote, and well, not the kids. A deer gets a alien symbiote, and the deer goes on a rampage. Meanwhile, these kids are trying to just live their lives. So it's a really good story, I think, at least. But I wrote it, so I'm a little biased. But those are some of the stories I'm working on currently. I mean, there's so many more I can name, but those are just the main ones. I also have a Halloween short story collection that I'm working on, but it's not going to be really anything new. It's going to have some 3 new stories and then 2 old stories. It's just going to be a small little thing I post on Amazon for 99 cents. I don't even think I'm going to make it a paperback. But anyways, that's it. I hope you guys are having a great day. I'm Nicholas Gray. I am author of those books, and I hope you guys are having a great day.
Thank you, Nicholas, for taking time out of your busy schedule to answer my questions. And I almost forgot, if you order a book from the author, he will sign it for you. So definitely feel free to hit him up for that. And with that covered, it's now time to move on to the spoilers section, which, if you haven't read this book before, I'm about to reveal some things that could ruin the experience for you. So if you would like to click away, all you have to do is scroll down to the comments, and you'll see that I have a pinned comment at the top with the timestamp in it. Once you click that timestamp, it will direct you away from the spoilers and bring you to the thoughts section. Now, you only have 17 seconds to do this. So, ready, set, go! Since everyone's had the opportunity to click away, I would like to talk about a few of my favorite moments. First up is when we get to see the alien in its full glory. Which, this comes about because as Ryan is playing flashlight tag with his friends in the cornfield, he encounters the alien, which is described as this hulking gray monstrosity that has 4 arms, and it has 3 eyes where the 2 eyes on the side of its head are like a chameleon's, and you have 1 eye in the center that's like a cyclops. Not to mention, it has this slit mouth that's full of nothing but needle teeth. I have always been a sucker for the creature feature, and I think the main reason why is because I've always loved the design behind a good original creature. which, by the way, the alien in this novella totally delivers, especially by how it has these predatory movements that seem like it's a mix between animal and human, not to mention that it is very intimidating with its appearance, and it is also extremely cold-blooded when it comes down to killing. And to a degree, it kind of feels like it plays with its prey before actually killing it. My next favorite moment was when Ryan and Corey confronted the alien. Now, leading up to this, Ryan had bumped into Corey as he was trying to find his little brother, which, by the way, Corey was supposed to be protecting Mikey, but he left the poor kid high and dry. And even though Ryan wants to kick Corey's ass for leaving his little brother behind, he realizes that finding Mikey is more important. So after they locate where Mikey is, they run off to that area only to find that an alien has already snatched him up. Well, this time when Corey's fight or flight kicks in, he decides to charge at the alien with his pocket knife. And even though he's able to do a little bit of damage, the alien grabs him by the face and squeezes so hard it crushes his head. I really loved everything surrounding this moment, especially how Ryan devised the plan for them all to jump at once so he could see where Mikey was located in the cornfield. Also, I really enjoyed Corey's dialogue as it was very campy, and it kind of felt like it was paying homage to Ash from the Evil Dead series, specifically something he might would have said in The Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness. But as far as Corey's death is concerned, it was pretty badass to see this alien pick him up with two of its hands while it was still holding Mikey, and then crush Corey's head without any issue whatsoever. Which I imagine this whole scene was a huge contributing factor to Ryan being institutionalized. My final favorite moment was Mikey's abduction. Now, prior to this, the circle of friends had passed around walkie-talkies so they could use them while they played flashlight tag. And even though these walkie-talkies are only supposed to have a limited range, after the alien and Mikey fly off in the spaceship, Ryan can still hear Mikey on the other end of the walkie-talkie screaming for help. For lack of a better word, this was sadistic. Like, having a loved one get abducted and knowing you're never going to see them again is pretty messed up. But adding on to that is the idea that the loved one is screaming out for you to help them and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, it adds a whole other level to the misery and horror that's behind this. Plus, my imagination got away with me, and I was imagining some really horrible things happening to Mikey. So, yeah, that really did stick out to me as being a very shocking ending. However, I did feel like something like this was going to happen, but still, reading about it didn't make me feel any less about the situation. I would like to take this opportunity to bitch about Corey. Now, in reality, we all know that one person who talks a big game, but they haul ass when shit gets real. And I tend to think had Ron not bumped into Corey when he did, the little bastard would have kept running the same way I run when I hear the dinner bell. But to be honest, and I'm about to give credit where credit is due, at least Corey went back with Ryan to try to save Mikey. And maybe this is because the kid had a guilty conscience after leaving Mikey behind, or it could be that he was starting to feel more empowered since he wasn't alone and had another person around his same age with him. I don't know. Maybe it was both. But regardless, had things played out to Ryan's favor, and I was Ryan, I would have let enough time pass. Then I would have taken my little brother over to Corey's house, and I would have been like, okay, Mikey, you can now nut check the mother. Field of Fiends by Nicholas Gray is a coming-of-age horror story that provided me with the escapism I needed. And even though it's clear from the first page that we're only going to have one survivor, or in this case the final boy, it was still fun to see how everything played out. Aside from that, I really felt like the characters were strong and relatable, and I noticed that there were quite a few themes going on throughout the plot, such as the bond between siblings, the questioning of one's faith, the loss of innocence, and maybe even ESP. Character-wise, everyone was well crafted over a small amount of time. And because of how the boys interacted, I was brought back to the friends that I had in high school. Which, by the way, we were this huge group of nothing but smartasses. So, because of how the boys teased one another and everything, it made me reminisce of the good old days. But the most important characterization in this story regards the brotherly relationship between Mikey and Ryan. And since I grew up as being an only child, this really presented a positive insight to me in the sibling relationship, and it was something that was very touching. Among the themes in this story, the one that stood out the strongest was the topic of sibling bonds, which in this case, Ryan and Mikey aren't blood brothers because Mikey had been adopted. But even still, we have the older brother, younger brother dynamic that brings home the vibes of unconditional love, the gumption to face horrors head on so you can save the one you love, and guardianship. Which I really believe that because of the background story we received on Mikey and Ryan, this was a contributing factor that made the ending even that much more intense. Another important subject regards the loss of innocence. And this comes about because Benton's Field, where Ryan and his circle of friends play, is a place that they had been using to build good childhood memories. But as soon as tragedy strikes, Ryan can no longer look at the field in the same light because it has now been tainted. Which, in coming of age stories, I feel like the removal of rose-tinted glasses is an important factor to these type of tales because it honestly shows how a child can go from being carefree and feeling like they're invincible to realizing that tragedy doesn't care who you are. It will hit anyone and everyone, and the world can be a scary place. Another subject that comes into play is losing your faith, which this is something I can't elaborate on too much because of spoilers, but because of the horrific events that Ryan undergoes, he's left questioning the existence of higher deities. And in reality, this is something that happens quite a bit, especially if you have survived a traumatic event that has left you feeling alone. Another subject that comes into play is the possibility of ESP. And this comes about because Mikey had been having awful nightmares about something in the sky long before the events in this story took place. Which I find this interesting because I really have to question, was he having actual nightmares? Like, was this the first time the aliens actually landed? Also, were the aliens responsible for Mikey's parents and the owner of Benton's Field disappearing? Like, if it wasn't ESP and these weren't nightmares, then the only other possibility is Mikey had been having previous encounters with the aliens. Which, of course, this is never answered in any form, and I'm glad that it isn't, because it allows the reader to think. Field of Fiends didn't scare me or gross me out, but it did do a good job of creeping me out and keeping me on the edge of my seat. Field of Fiends by Nicholas Gray was everything I needed so I could kick back and enjoy a good horror story. Also, as you can see, it's a very thin book, so I was able to read it in one sitting. But at the end of the day, if you are looking for an action-packed, blood-soaked alien story, then I do highly recommend Field of Fiends, which, by the way, is also published in Nicholas Gray's new collection called Gray's Anatomy. Before I close out, I would like to note that I added my Amazon wish list for the books I've been wanting on my social media accounts. And I'm probably going to start adding the link of my Amazon wish list into the description section of these videos as well. So if you want to spoil me, go ahead and spoil me. And as soon as I receive the book mail, I'll do a TikTok video so you can see my response and everything. But of course, I'm still going to give you a shout out at the end of my videos. And shortly after posting my wish list link, my good friend Brandy surprised me with this book mail, which I've been wanting this for a while. This is Black Cat by John A. Russo, which he is the author who wrote Night of the Living Dead before it was made into a movie. So I really can't wait to dive into this. It seems like it's going to be a lot of fun. And another thing, if you do decide to send me book mail, definitely send a little note with it too, because what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to put these notes in the books that I receive. And this one specifically says, "Enjoy your gift. Here's a little spoiling from Brandy." So thank you so very much, Brandy. And when I read this, this is going to be a nice little reminder of when it showed up on my doorstep. And then she decided to tease me by saying that she had another present that she ordered off for me. And it is this really cool book slip case, and it has all of Stephen King's classic books on it, like on the front and back. So that's going to come in handy because I recently discovered in July I am going to be vacationing in a cabin in the woods in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. And of course, I went to my social media and asked people, okay, well, what is a book I should read while staying in a cabin in the woods? And it's kind of funny because I'm going full circle here, but Nicholas Gray sent me this book mail maybe about a year or so ago of The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I just had to make sure I had that right. But what I'm going to do with this, the book mail that Nick Gray sent me, is going in this little slip case that Brandy sent me, and that is going to get read this July. Yes, so can't wait for that. It fits in there perfectly. Also, the creator of this, I'll share her information in the description section as well. So if you would like to have anything such as this done, I believe she does custom made. So yeah, it'll be right at your fingertips. But with bragging aside, it's now time to close out my video, and I would just like to thank these amazing people for contributing to my Patreon account. Here's a list of my Patreon contributors, and as you can tell, some of them are creators, so be sure to check out their work. And if you would like to contribute to my Patreon account, I have a link available in the description section of this episode, where for $5 a month, I'll give you a shout out at the end of my videos. And if there's a certain profession you would like for me to tie to your name, just let me know and I'll include that as well. Also, I do have a $10 tier available where I will still give you the shout out at the end of my videos, but at the beginning of every month, I'll send you over one of my creepy photos because I do creepy photography on the side. Once you receive this image, you can print it off and do whatever you like. But if you're able to do this, that's awesome. If not, no sweat. I just hope you return to this channel so we can have a good time together. Also, if you would like to add me on social media, links to my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and also my Amazon wish list for books are all in the description section of this episode. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel, be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell because I have more book reviews coming in the near future. So until I see you again, I hope you're doing well and sweet nightmares.